Welcome everybody to Forza Horizon 4, and today we're taking a look at the 1965 Austin-Healey 3000 Mark III. Now the Austin-Healey 3000 was produced between 1959 and 1967, and the Mark III was made between 1964 and 1967, with nearly 18,000 of these Mark IIIs being made. And yeah, the Mark III was the first one in the 3000 range to have power assisted braking standard, and in 1963, 91.5% of Austin-Healey 3000 cars were exported, mostly to America. So yeah, hugely successful car for Austin-Healey this was. Even if it did only last 8 years, it was still nonetheless a big success for him. And yeah, it is a classic British sports car that, quite frankly, should have been on plenty of other Forza games before this. But unfortunately, I think it's only been on Forza Motorsport 4 before it has returned to this game. So yeah, I am really glad it's back, along with plenty of other British classic sports cars. And yeah, this is easily one of my favourites. I quite like the styling. It's pretty of the time, but it's certainly not something that looks ugly. I certainly prefer it to the Austin-Healey Sprite, which we've reviewed already. And yeah, unlike the Sprite, this is a lot bigger, as you can see. It's even got room in the back for 2 child seats. Granted, you wouldn't want anyone driving around, well, sitting around in them for very long, because they don't look comfortable whatsoever. There's no back supports, for instance, as you can see. And yeah, quite small, so yeah, really wouldn't want to be in them for very long. Boot wise, yeah, if you take the spare wheel out, you'd have plenty of room, but with that and the battery in the rear there, you've not got all that much room in the world. So far from the most practical sports car ever. But compared to other British classic sports cars that were on this game, this is certainly one of the more powerful ones, as it has 147 horsepower, 173 pounds-feet of torque from a 2.9 litre inline 6 engine. So that's far more powerful than the likes of a Triumph Spitfire, the MG MGB GT, and obviously the Austin-Healey Sprite. And yeah, that makes this pretty much one of the best sports cars from Britain from this time, quite frankly, because yeah, it's got the handling, it's got the looks, etc., but it has the power and the performance to back it up, unlike, you know, the Triumph Spitfire, which looks good and is fun to drive, but it really doesn't have all that much in the way of speed or acceleration. So yeah, let's nonetheless get out there and see what this car can do. So yeah, even though this is obviously one of the fastest British classic sports cars from the period, it's certainly not quick enough to beat the more exotic cars, which I guess, you know, is in relation to the how much it actually cost back in the day. But yeah, it's still far quicker than the Austin-Healey Sprite, Triumph Spitfire and MGB GT, as it can do 0 to 60 in 9.8 seconds, 0 to 125 seconds, and going through a top speed of 132 miles an hour. So yeah, far quicker than the likes of this car right beside me, for instance. And yeah, it's all the better for it, quite frankly, because it's got a really nice sounding engine. Certainly not got one of those small cubic capacity engines that we've seen on previous British classic sports cars that we've had before on this game. And yeah, means that you get the most out of the handling and the braking and everything else, quite frankly, because you've got the power to properly challenge it, which means that yeah, this car handles fairly well to obviously make up for that extra power that it has over other cars from the period. And yeah, it means you can have even more fun with it, because you've got more power to, you know, get it sliding, get it up to a high rate of speed. And yeah, it's just generally a pretty damn decent sports car, though obviously, like I said, nowhere near as fast to beat other more exotic cars. I mean, like the Jaguar E-Type or an Aston Martin DB5 will obviously beat this in terms of speed and acceleration, but you know, this has lightweightness on its side. It only weighs 2,604 pounds, and that means that obviously it can make the most of that power. It's not burdened by any real weight, and yeah, you can get out some pretty easy to control slides like that. But if it takes your fancy, you can also obviously be a bit more serious in terms of how it handles, and obviously just in terms of general driving, just cruise around because yeah, with that bigger engine you can stick it into a higher gear and have plenty of torque on the go, no matter what gear you're in, which means obviously you can just cruise around at 60 or whatever in a higher gear and then easily be able to pull away in that gear, because this has far more torque as well as power over other cars that we've either reviewed already on this game or are also part of this game already. So yeah, really glad it's in the game. About time that we had, you know, British Classics cars more represented on a Forza game, because for a long time it's been, you know, the typical ones like the E-Type or the DB5. It was only really Forza Motorsport 4 where we got stuff like this, and even then that was DLC. So yeah, really glad it's back in the game. And yeah, one thing that does make me think about when researching this car is, why didn't American car manufacturers make something like this themselves if so many people in America were a fan of this kind of car, to the extent that, like I said, more than 90% of them being exported, most of them to America. It just baffles me that, you know, like Ford or Chevrolet didn't make a basic lightweight sports car like this, considering how popular obviously these foreign cars in America were at the time. Obviously Chevrolet didn't make the Corvette, but that's really the only example I can think of in terms of a car that's broadly similar to this, because unlike other convertible cars, which were generally hardtops converted to convertible cars, that Corvette was lightweight and had plenty of power, but it's the only real one I can think of, and that was hardly a cheap car to buy in comparison to something like this. So yeah, it's quite baffling that America really didn't you know, make their own versions of these kind of cars, because they weren't as popular in Europe and in the UK, but obviously massively popular around the world. And you know, for a time Britain was a major exporter of classic lightweight sports cars. It's a shame that's no longer the case, then again, that's something for another video, quite frankly, because yeah, the whole British Leyland thing really did screw up kind of cars like this, to be honest. Nonetheless, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.